2024, the visa refusal rate has skyrocketed to all-time high, and it's only getting worse. Why is Australia suddenly closing its door to so many international students? Getting a student visa has never been this tough. What's really going on behind the scenes? More importantly, how can you beat the odds and get your visa approved? In this video, I am pulling back the curtain on the truth behind Australia's visa policies, and if you are serious about studying down under, stick around because I am revealing 5 game-changing insider tips that can help you navigate through this visa chaos and increase your chances of success. Stay tuned till the end because this video could be a difference between your visa getting refused or approved. Let me ask you this: what if you could avoid the most common mistakes that are causing visa refusal for thousands of students? What if you had the knowledge to prepare yourself perfectly so that your visa application stands out from the rest? You see, the visa refusal rate has tripled since 2022, with staggering 39% of the applications being denied. I will uncover why that's happening and the politics behind it, and most importantly, how can you avoid being caught in the same trap. I will also talk about how to choose the right course, prepare for newly introduced genuine student test, and meet Australia's increasingly strict English language requirements. You'll also find on how to avoid mistakes like choosing low quality colleges or vocational courses which can hurt your chances of getting student visa. Want to know which courses Australia really needs? What documents are most important and how you show you are a real student who can help this economy? Then this is the video you shouldn't miss. First, I will reveal 6 major reasons why Australia is refusing so many student visas, from the tightening of the genuine student test to the crackdown of fraudulent documents and non-genuine applicants. I will break down each point and what it means for you. Next, I will dive into the solutions. I won't just leave you hanging with the problems. I will tell you exactly what you can do to avoid falling into these traps. Whether it's choosing the right course that aligns with Australia's economic needs or preparing thoroughly for GST, I will include with key takeaways a step-by-step guide on how to boost your chances of getting that visa even in this increasingly competitive environment. Did you know that getting the student visa for Australia is now harder than ever? Let's look at some numbers to understand how bad it's become. Back in 2022-23, only 11% of the student visas were refused. Before that, in 2021, it was around 8%. Even before COVID, from 2018 to 2019, the refusal rate was only between 9 to 10%. But fast forward to now, and the things have gotten much worse. In the first half of 2023 to the first half of 2024, the refusal rate has jumped to a shocking 39%. That means almost 4 out of 10 students are being refused. It's almost 3 times higher than before. Last year, Australia issued 570,000 student visas, but in the coming years, these numbers could be cut in half. If you haven't seen my earlier video, go have a check when you are finished with this one. I will add the link in the description down below. So let's talk about the reason number 1, and let me tell you a small story about GTE and GST. Here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. In March 2023, Australia replaced the old visa test with something much tougher, and it's causing many students' dreams to crash. But why this change happened? What does it mean for you? Just a few years ago, getting a student visa wasn't too difficult. All you needed to do was pass the genuine temporary entrant, which is GTE test. This test was pretty straightforward. You had to write a personal statement explaining why you wanted to study in Australia, and that was mostly it. Not a lot of paperwork, not too many questions. Most students passed it with ease. But here's where the trouble started. Over time, the government noticed a rise in fraudulent applications. Some students weren't really coming to study. They were using the system as a way to get permanent residency or to work without proper permission. And so the GTE became less effective and something had to change. Fast forward to 2023, Australia introduced the genuine student test. And this one, well, it's a whole different ball game. Unlike the GTE, the GST digs much deeper into your background. Why? The government wants to make sure that the students coming to Australia are serious about their education and not just looking for a way to enter the country under false pretenses. So what's different? Let's break it down. What makes GST tough though? First of all, financial proof. Under the GST, you need to show that you can financially support yourself during your studies. This means detailed bank statements, proof of funds, and sometimes even more documentation depending upon the country you're applying from. Course relevance. The GST will check if the course you have chosen makes sense for your career, which means that they will look at your background, what have you done in grade 10, what have you done in grade 12, and try to match it whether your course that you're applying for, does it actually align. Are you switching fields randomly? The visa officer might see that as a red flag. Number 4 is English skills. Higher standards are being applied now. Your English will be evaluated to ensure that you can keep up with your studies. Number 5 is detailed background check. This is where things get really serious. The GST takes a close look at your academic and personal history. They want to see if your qualification match the course you're applying for. They will even question whether you will return to your home country after finishing your studies. Now the question that we all have in mind, why the change? So why did the government feel the need to make it so hard? Well, they had their reasons. Over time, Australia's become aware of growing number of people trying to game the system. Some applicants were submitting fake documents or using student visas as a way to stay in the country indefinitely. The government had to act fast to protect its education system and reputation. That's where GST comes in. It's designed to ensure only genuine students who are coming to the right reasons get through. Now let's talk about some tips here. This might sound as an old beaten record, but trust me guys, you need to be 100% focused on the genuine student test. This is the first document you submit for your visa, and it's the one the authorities review with the most detail. If you don't pass this test, your application is not moving forward. The second important factor is the higher English language requirements. In the past, students could get admission with lower English scores like 5 or 5.5 band in IELTS, but now many universities and courses, especially for higher degrees and research programs, require minimum of 6.5 to 7 bands. Okay, now let's talk about the story why this change. Because Australia is an English-speaking country and they want students to have good enough English skills to understand and communicate well. This requirement is even tougher for the students from countries where English isn't first language, like the Indian subcontinent. There's even talk that for the February 2025 intake, the English requirement may increase by another 0.5 band. While it's not confirmed yet, it's something to keep in mind as you prepare. If anything changes, I will make sure I keep you updated. Few more tips guys. Prepare your documents early. Don't wait until the last minute to gather your financial or academic records. Having everything in order can save you a lot of stress. Choose the right course. Make sure the course you're applying for makes sense with your background and your future plans. Don't just pick something random. Be honest in your application. This might sound obvious, but it's worth repeating. Make sure everything in your application is accurate and truthful, especially when explaining why you want to study in Australia. There is one more tip that can give you a real edge, and I personally believe it in guys. Seek help from an expert. Navigating the visa process can be complicated, and trying to do it all on your own may lead to mistakes or missed opportunities. That's where a reputed immigration agent or an education consultant comes in. Investing in a qualified consultant often pays off in the long run by increasing your chances of visa approval. Just be sure to do your homework and choose an expert who is well established and reputable. This can make all the difference in your visa journey. If you're going to a basic or average college or just doing a vocational course that doesn't require any specific skills, you're not adding much value to the economy. So they prefer students who can bring something more to the table. Students with better English, attending reputable institutions, and gaining skills that can make real difference in the workforce. Now, before I move on to number 3 on the list, if you're still with me, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Your support isn't just a click. It's what keeps me going and helps me bring you more valuable content. It truly means the world to me. Now let's talk about the third reason: scrutiny on low-level courses. The government has been keeping a close watch on students applying for low-level vocational courses or colleges that doesn't have strong reputation. If you apply to one of these, your chances of getting visa are very low. And you might ask, why is that? Guys, understand, the government wants students who can actually contribute to the economy with skills that are in demand. The fourth reason why many visas get refused is the crackdown on non-genuine and fraudulent students. The Department of Home Affairs is working really hard to reduce the number of scams and fake applications. Sadly, in some countries, including India, students sometimes submit false documents to get visas. Even though it may seem easy to create fake papers, this has serious consequences. And let's be honest guys, applying to level 1 or level 2 universities, even though they might cost you a bit more, your chances of getting a visa are much higher. So which one do you prefer? So even though it might be more expensive, it's worth aiming for a better institution to maximize your chances of success. If the visa officers have even 1% doubt about whether a student is genuine, they will likely refuse the visa without an explanation. When students get caught using fake documents, it doesn't just damage their own reputation, it harms the image of their whole country. A few years ago, certain states in India were even blacklisted because of high number of fraudulent applications. This means people from these states found it very hard to get visas. Australia takes its education system very seriously. The country's universities are known around the world for their quality, and they have to protect that reputation. Even though this plan mainly targets permanent migrants, it's important to note that international students are also considered part of the migrant population. While students aren't the correct cause of the housing crisis, they are still part of the bigger picture when it comes to managing immigration numbers. This means the availability of student visas could also be affected as part of the broader goal to reduce migration. Now let's talk about number 4 and see how this is all connected. Now Australia is planning to cut immigration by 2027. You might be thinking, wait, what does it have to do with me as a student? Well, let me explain. Australia is facing serious housing crisis, and many locals feel that migrants are adding pressure to already tight housing market. So to ease this strain, the government has decided to gradually reduce the overall number of migrants entering the country over the next 5 years, starting from 2023 through to 2027. By limiting the number of international students from the very beginning at the university level, they believe it will naturally reduce the net migration over the next few years. Okay guys, now let's move on to number 5, and this is a big one. The Australian government is trying to limit university enrollments, and this plays a major role in the visa challenges international students are facing. So what's the story here? To understand this, let me give you an example. Some universities in Australia have been enrolling more international students than they can handle. Imagine a university with a space of 60,000 students but ends up enrolling over 50,000 of them as international students. That's more than 80% of their seats. But here's the problem. Where do the rest of the local students go? This overflow has led to the government placing a cap on the number of international students universities can take in. This is because student visas are seen as an easy entry into the country. A student arrives, finishes their studies, applies for temporary residency, collects points, and eventually applies to be a permanent resident. It's a pathway many follow. The government sees this as a key area to target if they want to reduce immigration, which is a part of the long-term plan. What can you do as an international student to avoid visa rejections? Let's go over most important tips. Choose a course that Australia needs. Did you know Australia wants skilled workers to help their economy. Pick a course that's on Australia's skilled occupation list, which is also called as SOL. Each state has different needs. For example, WA might need electricians and Victoria might need engineers. If your course matches what's in demand, it could make your visa process much smoother. Think about it. You become an asset to Australia. You'll be helping them while they help you. Imagine you're applying to study in Australia and you're passionate about engineering. You check the skilled occupation list and see that Victoria has the high demand of engineers. This means that the state is looking for more engineers. Now let's say you pick a course in engineering at the University of Victoria. By the time you finish your studies, Victoria still needs engineers. Since your skills are in demand, Australia sees you as an asset. You'll be helping the state by filling a skill gap, and in return, the visa process becomes easier for you because you're aligned with their needs. It is like being the missing puzzle piece that perfectly fits into what Australia needs. They need engineers and you are trained to be one. This alignment boosts your chances of getting a visa, since you are not just a student but also someone who can contribute to their economy. Number 2, ace the genuine student test. This test, super important guys. It's one of the most critical things the visa office checks. Many students don't realize how serious this is. Be honest in your test. Tell them what you have studied before, what you want to study in Australia and not another country. If you lie or use fake documents, your visa could be rejected and you might not be able to apply again for next 6 to 8 months. Make sure your test result reflects your true intentions. Meet the English requirements. How is your English? Can you speak, write and understand well enough? If you can't meet the English requirements, you won't even get past the first step. Start practicing early, whether it's speaking, writing or even grammar. Keep improving your skills. When you get to Australia, you'll be thankful you prepared not just for the visa but for your future studies. Number 4, work with reputable agents. Now guys, this is a big one. Have you heard of visa scams? Many students get tricked by agents who aren't trustworthy. Find someone with a good reputation, someone who knows the migration laws in Australia. You will need someone you can trust with your future.